Good evening and welcome to Wednesday night Satsang. We're so happy that you're here with us this evening, both here in the pyramid as well as online with us, and those who are watching this in the future for us, but in the present moment, because in spirit we are all connected, already present now. And so I invite you all to take a deep breath in and to relax and open and just simply allow yourself now to let go of all the stress and worry, all concerns and decisions, all things that pose issues or problems to be fixed or handled. Nothing need be done now. Only be in this moment as one. And we take a deep breath in and breathe into our hearts. And for this moment of awareness, we allow that flow of breath to be like the flow of love, like the flow of life through our bodies, like the flow of ideas through our minds, like the flow of words that come from our hearts to bless the world, like the actions that flow from our hands and from all that we do and all that we are to one another, in partnership, in collaboration, in care, in life, in love. This is our remembrance. This is why we've come, to be here now. And so it is, and so we are. Amen.
Our chant tonight is a mantra chant, Sa Ta Na Ma. Means the truth within. Sa is birth, Ta is life, Na is death, and Ma is rebirth. So it is speaking to the cycle of life, and it's a chant that's intention is to clear negative emotions from the subconscious, to have total mental balance. And so to support your practice tonight as you sing, I invite you, if it calls to you, to join with me in doing the hand mudra that goes with this chant. And you can do it with both hands. I'll be doing it with one. And you play your fingers like a piano with each syllable. So it's Sa, Ta, Na, Ma, starting with the pointer finger and playing across your fingers and going back to the beginning. So you'll pick up as we go along. Sa, ta, na, ma. 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 All things come from God, and all things go to God. Everything comes from God and goes back home again. All things come from God, and all things go All things come from God, and all things go to God. Everything comes from God and goes back home again. All things come from God, and all things go to God. Everything comes from God and goes back home again, and goes back home again. Satanama, 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 Satanama.
And so this is the time in our service that we allow that last syllable to escort us into the reverie of this time apart. And so once again, I invite you to take a deep breath in and find the comfortable setting in your seat, the comfortable positioning for your feet to be at rest on the floor or in a comfortable position, to allow your spine to be upright, holding your body so that your shoulders are across and comfortably relaxed, straight, your hands, arms hanging down from your shoulders in a comfortable, natural way for gravity just to pull it down. And if you need to release your shoulders or some muscles in your back or across your chest, your neck, do so. Just gently and lovingly stretch, squeeze and let go. Taking another deep breath in, this is your time. And so tonight we will practice using the fire of our hearts. Our hearts are the center of the portal through which all love flows. Our connection with all that is. The knowledge, the wisdom, the guidance comes through the portal of the heart. And so as we breathe, we relax that opening and allow more and more awareness. Allow love to flow into our bodies. And with each successive breath, simply allow that flow of love to move into every part of your body, from head to toe, throughout your physical structure of your bones and the skeletal strength of your body, the muscles and tendons that give you mobility and ability to move, to carry things, to do. to express yourself. Take another deep breath in, drawing in light and life into the soft tissues of your body, the organs that are organized around body functions that bring health and stamina, strength and power, that allow you to move, to feel, to speak, to touch, to care for all the body functions that are needed for your connection with the earth here during this lifetime, for the ways in which we use our bodies to express, to communicate, to reach out to one another. This last year plus has been a challenge for us humans who depend on the touch of one another and the care we give through being close and holding one another when things are hard. This is our time to feel the sweetness of our gratitude flowing through these bodies. For it is this nectar of appreciation and joy that softens and makes flexible our body temple, to be able to touch, to love, to reach out and heal one another, to express care. As we breathe into the fiery center of our hearts, with the out-breath, we allow that beautiful flame of love to move from us as holy light. We feel it moving with each breath, with each face that's important to us, that appears before us in our mind's eye now, to send out love and forgiveness and connection. We send out love to those we know, to those who matter to us, who live with us, who work beside us, who partner with us, who lead us, who follow us, who run with us and walk with us and talk with us and teach us and show us the way. And those we mentor and help and care for and hold in our hands and bless them with our words, with our prayers, with our joy, with our presence. Let us now think of all of the steps we have taken on paths that are not paved, grasses beneath our feet, gravel roads, or paths, or stones we've stepped upon, or streams we've gotten our feet wet in. Of ways we have made all our own, and those we have followed behind someone leading the way. For all of creation belongs to us, and we belong in nature to draw strength and healing and peace. To find joy and reverie and direction for our lives. These are the gifts of our time apart. The sounds in the sky and the trees, the sounds of bird calls and whistles, of songs, the smell of flowers and wet bark and dark earth, and the breeze that brings us the music through the pines, and the flowers we cannot see. They play in our hearts, in our memories, paint our dreams, and remind us how loved we are. In sunlight, in starlight, by the light of the moon, and the thunder of waves. We are blessed. We are one. We are love. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Karen, for that beautiful, refreshing meditation and the pause in creating the space that reminds us of who we are, from where we come and where we're going. And Reverend Jean Marie, thank you for that beautiful song, Satanama. It comes from God. It goes through our lives and then back to God again. It's that way here on campus, here at Unity of Houston. We're very blessed to have the efforts of volunteers and staff and ministers to create that space for us to be, become, and belong. And if you would like to contribute financially to that, please do so this evening through the text to give number on the screen, through the Unity of Houston app on your phone, through our website at unityhouston.org. The ushers will also be coming down the aisles if you're here in the pyramid to take a physical gift. And if we can all pause for a moment and just call these gifts by their name. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. And so it is. Amen.
Perceiving in the invisible potential that is yet to come forward and is calling on you to believe, trust, have faith. I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith.
Thank you, Jean Marie. That was so sweet. It's like almost like a lullaby. This evening, I want to speak on the gifts of spiritual maturity. And this is a continuation, of course, of our A Path with Heart series by Jack Kornfield's book, or out of his book, and something that's probably at least 25 years old, but is so beautifully written and so really powerful. It's been wonderful for us to speak from it. So tonight I'm going to be talking about where all this spiritual practice stuff is taking us. What is it that we are wanting to accomplish, I guess, or where do we get to with it? And really what he talks about in this chapter is the gifts of spiritual maturity. In other words, once we've reached a certain level of practice or a certain level or a certain place of having some healing and some accomplishment or some practice that has helped us move and open and begin to mature spiritually, we receive the gifts of spiritual maturity. And in Christian terms, there are gifts of the Spirit that are bestowed, usually through ritual or through a sacrament. In the Catholic Church, it was thought to receive them that way, or through prayer of asking through the Holy Spirit. In 12-step circles, there are the 12 promises that we're given. If we practice the steps, the 12 steps, eventually we'll begin to be living. We will move into a place that those who have worked these steps before us faithfully and committed themselves to a recovery program, that they have reached a certain way of living that brings peace and joy. And the same is true for all of us who are on any kind of desired spiritual path. Kornfield says, as one matures in spiritual life, one becomes more comfortable with paradox, for instance. In other words, able to handle both and, not either or, not having to choose only this and only that, but rather recognize that nothing is really only this or only that, right? We kind of wise up a little bit and we realize that inherent in life, we get maybe a lot of this, but we also get a little of that too. And it's all a part of the whole. So we become more comfortable with paradox, more appreciative of life's ambiguities, its many levels and inherent conflicts, he says. One develops a sense of life's irony and metaphor. Things are sort of like this, or it's as that. Something else in my experience that I know I can apply to life itself and understand a dynamic or a process or a flow. He also says spiritual maturity brings humor. Yes, it does. If you've ever seen an interview with the Dalai Lama, who practices Buddhist practice faithfully, regularly, and he can't hardly get a sentence out without laughing or making a joke about himself or about something that he thinks is funny. He is constantly referring back and falling back into joy and into humor. And Kornfield says, spiritual maturity is also a capacity to embrace the whole with its beauty and outrageousness in the graciousness of the heart. He calls this teaching, this book he's written, A Path with Heart. It is heart-centered because this is the center of your wisdom. This is your truthometer. This is the portal through which everything that has deep intrinsic value in your life, you will perceive through the power of your heart. There are times in your life that you will try to avoid pain. I think that is something that we all try to do, right? We try to avoid pain. Pain is a challenge and it's a difficulty, but with spiritual maturity, we begin to realize that even when we don't choose a painful path anymore, we're a little bit more wised up to it and realize, you know what, don't go there. I've been there. That didn't turn out so good. I'm going to at least go the opposite way. I'm going to go somewhere else. It's like we get smarter about how, so that we don't have to live in pain or we don't have to stay there so long before we realize there's another way out. There's something else we could be doing. I remember when I was delivering my oldest daughter, my very first child, and I chose an epidural. I was planning on it all along. I barely paid attention in birth classes. I had to take them, but I took them. But I barely paid attention to the breathing thing because I was not in any way, shape, or form going to do this without my epidural. I was very clear from the beginning that's how this was going to go down. So I just barely paid attention to any of that. And so when the time came and I'm on the way to the hospital and the pains were really getting more frequent and much harder and more painful, I pulled my book out of the glove compartment and I started going, is it hee ha ha or ho 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 ha? I was just like, well, maybe I needed to know a little something about this. I should have paid more attention. So we get there and I get the epidural. And it's just, I mean, after a certain amount of preparation and waiting and getting to a certain point, they placed the epidural, had me sitting up, and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to get better. It's going to be all right. And then the baby's heart rate decelerated, and so I had to move and lay on one side. And so the epidural is medication into your spinal column, and you're standing up so that it'll run down your spinal column and anesthetize you from that point down. Well, laying on one side, I got all the anesthesia on one side and none on the other side. So now it's, Katie bar the door, it's rock and roll time, and they weren't gonna, I said, but wait a minute, I can feel all that. I'm feeling all of that. I'm feeling all of that. And they said, too late, sorry, come on, let's go. And they got in my face and they did the breathing thing with me so I could at least breathe with them. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And I went through the whole thing and delivered my daughter with, as far as I can tell, all the pain possible. I don't know that there could, it was a 10 and a half, 11, it was a something. It was all the pain I could possibly have had. And if I was anesthetized on that side, I don't know. The whole thing was just loud and painful. And on the other side, something amazing happened. The doctor had to sew up the episiotomy, and they didn't use any anesthesia. And I was just like, I don't care what you do. I just pushed a baby out of my body in front of all these people. There was blood everywhere, right? There was everything. And I just said, you know what? You cannot hurt me anymore. I can't be hurt. I have already experienced the most amount of pain I can have. And I thought there was a place where I had gotten without fear. I didn't have fear anymore about that. And I realized that we can go through an experience of a certain amount of pain. Now, I don't want to equate all pain, and I'm not going to, that isn't what my point is here. This is a natural process, it is to have a baby, and that's how women do it. But I'll say that there was something amazing, a discovery on the other side of it for me, that has to do with, I realize now I can tolerate a whole lot more than I would have signed up for. And that I don't necessarily choose to do that. And when I can, I don't. But if it happens, I'm not afraid of it because I know there's something on the other side. Do you know that? There is something on the other side of the pain, every pain you've ever been through the pain of your life. Something amazing has happened on the other side of that pain because you're here now. And because of that, there is some strength and some quality that arises out of us because of that. And I want to remind you and myself that avoiding pain is a poor excuse for checking out of life. Because what's on the other side with spiritual maturity and practice and living life and experiencing it, we realize that there are great gifts on the other side of great challenge, of great loss at times. There's great power there. Cornfield says, fruit falls from a tree naturally when it's ripe, and after due time in spiritual life, the heart, like fruit, begins to mature and sweeten. Our practice shifts from the green, hard growth of seeking, developing, and improving ourselves to a resting in mystery. It shifts from reliance on form to a practice in the face of family difficulties and the fundamental church that sometimes we have followed. He talks about a woman who had struggled early in her life and began to practice Buddhism, and her parents, who were fundamentalists, gave her a hard time in her choice to become Buddhist. And then finally one day she said, you know, my parents hate me when I'm a Buddhist, but they love me when I'm a Buddha. When we are coming from our heart and not our dogma, when we're coming from a place of love and acceptance and compassion, from the real truth of us, when we come from our hearts, people feel that. When we are coming from principles and philosophies and ideas and rights and wrongs, when we're still learning our way sometimes, those are the times when we can have conflict and arguments and disagreements. But we don't ever disagree about love, do we? Love is the language that we all respond to. And it's actually the thing we're trying to get better at all the time. Cornfield says the spiritual work we do is required the end of compartmentalization. Like, it only belongs in my spiritual practice, but when I get in the car, Katie bar the door. When I get in the car and drive in Houston traffic, everybody better look out. You know, no, it's like we're supposed to take that with us, right? We're supposed to be practicing everywhere. Cornfield says that work requires the end of compartmentalization and understanding that whatever we seek to push into the shadow or avoid must eventually be included in our spiritual life, that nothing can be left behind. Spirituality has become more about who we are than what ideal we pursue, or what we say we're about, or what we say we believe. Spirituality has shifted from going to India or Tibet or Machu Picchu to going home and bringing everything we are to every moment we're in it. He says that there are 10 qualities of spiritual maturity, and you're never going to remember all these. But I'm going to tell them to you anyway, and I'm going to try to help you to find one or two that you'll buttonhole and you'll say, that one, I know that one. Oh yeah, that's what that is, right? So think about your own life and how it is that you have encountered some of this. The first one is non-idealism. Maturity is not perfection, Cornfield says. Maturity rests in the compassion of our being, not the ideals of our mind. So it's not about idealism. It's not about holding a high value. He says it does not seek a perfect world or to perfect ourselves or our bodies or our personalities. It doesn't romanticize about enlightenment or certain teachers. It doesn't seek to gain or attain in spiritual life, only to love and be free without those ideals, those perfection. It's not about perfection, is it? He says, without ideals, the heart can turn the suffering and imperfections we encounter into the path of compassion. And there's the prize. The divine can shine through even in acts of ignorance and fear. The divine can shine through even acts of ignorance and fear. The ones I commit, the ones you commit. The ways in which we see someone we judge or someone we hold accountable or blame. that even in that, there's some light we've overlooked for the moment. Because no matter how much isn't being true to their soul, in some corner, there's a tiny glint of light we've overlooked. For we seek not to perfect the world, but to perfect our love for what is on this earth. That is the hallmark of spiritual maturity. The second one is kindness, based on a fundamental notion of self-acceptance rather than guilt, blame, shame, or fear. Mary Oliver, a beautiful poet, says, "You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves." Love. Notice we keep coming back to that. How natural our spirituality really is. How really easy it is to just go back to the touchstone. What is my purpose here? To love. What is my experience? What is the indicator that tells me I'm in love? Freedom. When I am free and free to love. You look for those two things, and peace will come. Peace is the other hallmark of knowing you have arrived at that place for nothing more than simple peace. Cornfield says, in deep self-acceptance grows a compassionate understanding. And I will tell you that compassion is created in reciprocity. I wish I had a better word for that, but what I really mean is that the only way I can really develop compassion is to experience it first for myself and then for you. I empathize with you, I bring that in, but true compassion is self-acceptance. When I see my failures and my foibles and my places, then when I see it in you, I go, sister, I know what that's like. Brother, I've done it too. And suddenly I give you a lot more space because I am training myself to give myself more space. That's kindness. Patience, he says, is a third one. Spiritual maturity understands that the process of awakening goes through many seasons and cycles. The Zen master Suzuki Roshi said, the problem with the word patience is that it implies we're waiting for something to get better. We're waiting for something good that will come. Patience. Oh, just wait, just wait, just wait. It'll come, it'll come. He says, instead, know that it's a capacity to be what is true moment after moment after moment. The capacity to be with what is true this moment, to discover enlightenment one moment after another moment. That means just wake up. Just say, oh, here we are. Oh, this is it. Oh, now we're having this. Oh, that's what's going on. This, all of this. Patience is watching, breathing, feeling, seeing, with an openness to realizing you're participating in a process that is natural and going somewhere. That's my definition. It's a process that's natural and going somewhere. And you're on the road. Number 4, immediacy. We could also call it the now. Immediacy. Spiritual awakening is found in our own life, here and now. Kabir says, of whatever we seek, what is found then is found now. In other words, it's always been here. It's always been waiting. It's always here. It isn't going to be a time in the future or someplace else. It's right here, right now. If it's anywhere, if it's true, it's already here. Open your eyes. Remembering what is deeply true in this moment is the ticket back to enlightenment. We wake up again and again and again. That's immediacy. Number 5 is integrated and personal sacredness. What does that mean? He says, integrated means that it doesn't create separate compartments of our life, that compartment thing again, dividing what is sacred from that which is not. Personal means honoring spirituality through our own words and actions. In other words, this is my trip. This is my journey. This is my interpretation. This is my experience, right? I'm learning, I'm listening, but the only way I know to live it is to apply it to the life I'm living. And for you to apply it to the life you're living and the conditions and circumstances you're in. Whatever spiritual truth you're applying, it's going to look different in your life than it does in mine or than it does in your neighbor's. Integrated and personal spiritual practice includes our work, our love, our families, and our creativity. It understands that the personal and the universal are all connected, that the universal truths of spiritual life can come alive only in each particular and personal circumstance. How we live is our spiritual life. As one wise student remarked, if you really want to know about a Zen master, talk to their spouse. How are they living their life? Yeah. Honesty, authenticity, transparency, nothing to hide in spiritual maturity. You know what? It's all fodder. It's all, there's no pretense. You don't have to be superficial. There's nothing to hide anymore. Number 6 is questioning. Stay open with an inquisitive mind. Our spiritual path is the product of our own investigation into truth. There it is again, owning the journey. It's like, okay, I've got this piece, now I'm going to use it. And I'm going to say, well, does it work here? Does it work there? Why is that not working? Questioning, opening, understanding, coming up with your own axioms, coming up with your own philosophy, coming up with your own mantras, your own affirmation. That's the deal, isn't it? That's the most powerful way you could be. Staying open, inquisitive, willing to see things from different perspectives and points of view. Can you hear that spiritual maturity is not an end state? Did you hear that? I hope you do. Because we're in number 6. We're going into the last 4 right now. But as we do, recognize that spiritual maturity is simply an opening to an even larger field of expression and growth to move into. But you get to take it with the depth of knowing that this road can be fun, that this ride is wild, and that nobody can predict what your course is going to be. Number 7 is flexibility. I love this one. Cornfield says spiritual maturity allows us, like bamboo, to move in the wind, to respond to the world with our understanding in our hearts, to respect the changing circumstances around us. Have you heard of the pandemic pivot? How many times did you pivot in the pandemic? How many times did you have to go with plan B or plan C or plan D? Because, well, we can't do that way now. We have to run in this direction, right? The pandemic, we have learned, I think we all have master's degrees at a minimum in flexibility, in pivoting. Pandemic has given us plenty practice, am I right? Cornfield says, the Buddha reminds his followers that those who grasp at philosophies and views simply wander the world, annoying people. In other words, when you act like you know, and like you remind people of this axiom, this belief system, it's boring, isn't it? It's only when there's some hard-earned, hard-won experience that makes it come alive, that makes it transferable, that makes it inclusive. The flexibility of heart brings a humor to spiritual practice. That's why this is my favorite. Humor, as sacred spiritual practice. Humor has to be harmless, though, gentle, harmless observation, where humor arises from a surprising perspective, like, I didn't see it that way, oh, that's funny, or it's just like this, or the recognition of a shared human ego. I spend more time laughing at myself or others from this perspective of a shared human ego, because I tell you what, our egos are hilarious. They are the things that have all these pompous thoughts and ideas of that we're getting away with something, that people can't really see who we really are, that we can put something over on someone, or that we can just dress nicer and then our self-worth will come up, or you know what I mean? We're just sort of like pretentious at times. And when I catch myself at that, when I realize that's what I was really secretly thinking, it makes me laugh, and I want to tell somebody, because I kind of want to out myself all the time. I want to always tell off on myself, mainly because I think it's hilarious, and mainly because I think it'll make me feel better to know when I make someone else laugh, they recognize that. Because we're all human, and that's how we think. And when we burst that bubble, we don't live in it anymore, at least not for the next few minutes. Cornfield says, my teacher Achan Cha spoke of himself as resting like a tree, bearing fruit, giving room for the birds to rest, moving in the wind. The dharma of flexibility is joyful and restful. Now, obviously that's a metaphor, but how many ways could you apply resting like a tree rests, bearing fruit, giving space for the birds to rest, moving in the wind? How would you translate that to the activities of your life, to the way in which you interact with the world, with those you love, those you serve? Number 8, embracing opposites. Paradox is in the mind. Both sides, both ends, the two opposites are both true at the same time. That's a paradox. That's something the mind has a hard time figuring out. But the capacity to hold contradictions of life comes with our heart. Our ability to embrace with our heart the positive, the negative, the good, the bad, the brilliant, the foolish. A very wise teacher is not always right, and a foolish person is not always wrong. It takes spiritual maturity to stay alert to the opposite in each and to be able to recognize it when it occurs. That's spiritual maturity, where we don't blame somebody for not being perfect. Because why? We left that at number 1. Non-idealism is perfectionism. That was a waste of time from the beginning. There's no ideal form of me or no ideal form of you. You are becoming, I am becoming. What is inside of me is perfect, and it's coming into visibility. Number 9 is relationship. Again, nothing can be compartmentalized, so you're in relationship with everything you encounter in our spiritual life and in our practice. Our relationship to people, places, things are all a lens to see ourselves through. The Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, I want you to take this in and translate this into some activity of your life. It could be this. He says he was fond of reminding his students of how when we wash dishes. So if you don't happen to wash dishes, well, you could start washing dishes. That's what you could do, because we all make dirty dishes. We could at least wash our own. So when we do, here's what he says. Can we wash each cup or bowl as if we were bathing a newborn baby Buddha. What if your cup and your spoon and your bowl, one at a time, you brought the mindfulness and the care and the wonder and the heart to clearing and smoothing and cleansing the surface of that instrument with love and appreciation, as precious as a newborn baby Buddha. Ooh, I love that. Nothing can be excluded from our practice because nothing arises independent of our interconnectedness. You can't separate it out because it's all part of you and it's a reflection of you, and your practice will be diminished anytime you try to only make it this or only make it there. Everything is because we are one. And as my teacher told me, it's all grist for the mill. Everything you encounter, everything. And that brings us to number 10, ordinariness. Ordinariness is the post-enlightenment practice that recognizes the ordinariness of life when special spiritual states subside. In other words, when you have that amazing meditation or that vision or that experience where suddenly everything fell away and you saw the pure translucent light in everything. It was like for a moment you saw it differently. You heard angels sing. There was something powerful and beautiful. And then somehow it slowly subsided and everything went back to normal light and normal sound. And in that moment, you realize that all along, you've been walking in that beautiful light, and you just didn't know it. And so now you are the bearer of that light in all the places where you don't see it, and others don't see it, but you know you're bringing it. Cornfield says, in this ordinariness, there is no higher or lower, nothing to fix, nothing to desire, simply an opening in love and understanding to the joys and to the suffering of the world. And so I leave you with this heightened awareness. We are now prepared to walk in the world, equipped to meet all that it shows us, bestowing love, walking freely. The path of a baby Buddha. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend Karen, for bringing us the Dharma teaching tonight and inviting us into seeing the possibilities of the gifts of spiritual maturity as we continue to walk this path. I was struck by the story you shared about the woman who was in a fundamentalist family and she practiced Buddhism, and thinking about just how in my own path I've been called to hold that paradox of here I'm a unity minister and we're teaching Buddhism, and that's okay. That's actually wonderful because we're expanding our awareness. Because as we try to define, the more we try to define God, we go into the mystery where it's indefinable.
Exactly.
Right. I was thinking about your Unity People's Convention 4 years ago that you were the president, and your theme was keep unity wide open. I was wondering if you might tell us a little bit about your thoughts around what the purpose is of keeping our teachings wide open.
Oh, thank you. Unfortunately, that'll take the rest of the evening, so I hope y'all brought a lunch or something. No, actually, what it really is that in my experience of unity, and this is what I believe, is that our co-founders founded unity, yes, under the direction of Jesus Christ and based on Christian scriptures and teachings and what was found in the Hebrew Bible, but they also studied world religions. And when they did, they learned that there was actually some coherent basic principles that all faith traditions were fundamentally based on, that there is what I like to call an underground river of mysticism that is underneath it. And what is mysticism? It's not weirdo, strange. It is actually, it's actually built into the very nature of our humanity. It is our natural spirituality. It is the spirituality of our ancestors, of indigenous people. It has ever been the truths that we recognize our oneness with all that we see and all that is, and know that we are being cared for and that we're being supported by unseen forces and by everything that's here. And when we realize the oneness of everything, that this is a closed system that is infinite and endless and constantly changing, but yet we can't be lost from and we can't leave or be forgotten in, we're all part of it, then we find that those things are echoed in different ways in world religions. So keeping unity wide open means we are not wandering aimlessly and can fall off the earth, fall off the planet or go out of the universe somehow or go astray. We can only find more and more of the greater truth because we're already wired to find it. We are already wired to live from that truth and discover it. So really, walking in love and walking freely is paramount. And that's why keeping unity wide open and not trying to define it or make it a container that's tight with a lid would be death. It needs to be wide open because the possibilities are as endless as my spiritual path and as yours.
Yes, I think students may be drawn to theology, but what they really want is an authentic teacher. And so it's whatever spiritual gifts that you've received from different paths and teachings that lead you to express yourself authentically.
That's true. So true.
It's almost like unity is one of those paradigms that can once you understand that, every paradigm underneath it or around it is something that you can bring into your own life without any friction. And I volunteer as a counselor every third Sunday during the church services. And sometimes there are people who have something that you get stirred up from them in the sermon, and they want someone to talk to. And on my first experience with that, it was a Buddhist woman. And she came to Unity every other week. And then she went to her Buddhist temple. The second person I talked to was Muslim. And she had a problem with someone in her life, and she wanted to talk about that. And I said, how does a Muslim get to unity? And she goes, well, this is what I really believe, but this is my culture, this is my history.
Right.
And I'm not going to give it up. And unity is the only place I can come where I don't have to give that up. Third person I talked to was Hindu. Fourth person I talked to was Jewish. And I thought, okay, I'm getting this, God. I'm getting the fact that we've got this thing that works for everybody.
Wow.
And I have never kind of let go of that. It truly is a unifying paradigm.
I can't believe, I can't believe, I'm so excited to hear you say that. I didn't realize that had been your experience here, and I shouldn't be surprised, because the truth is, as I said, love. You cannot go wrong with love. Love is the point. It's the food that we share. It's the food we give. And the love that is not only in this ministry, but it's in this teaching. Love is real. It's the real thing, and it's the only thing. And when we find ourselves in conflict or fallen off or lost somewhere, it's just remember, what is my purpose? My purpose is to love, and my way is to be free. How can I find freedom? How can I love? How can I bring peace? And once you can answer those simple questions, sometimes they're simpler than they sound. You don't have to fix everything. You just need to find it for yourself. And out of that place, everything else will become clear. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I was reminded of during your talk is we become conscious of where we are relative to our ego and to the spiritual aspects of ourselves. And it's a concept that I call spiritual altitude. And today I received a text from someone and I looked at my phone and I thought, I do not have the spiritual altitude to answer this text right now. I'm going to come back to this later when I've got a little lift under my wings here. But that capacity to step outside of yourself, that's something I learned here at Unity. It's like, where are you in this moment? Where are your spiritual powers? Are you strong enough to answer that question that it's going to result in love rather than fear or continuing the argument?
Right. It's so true. And, you know, everything just keeps coming back to the same truth. It's like, what do I need to take care of myself so that I can take care of you? How can I? It has to start here, but it has to start here. It's not a thought. It's really an opening of the heart. It's actually, how can I relax my heart so I can be present now? And what does my heart need to give to me so I can give to you, you know?
I'm going to take away what you left us with about the baby Buddha and when washing the dishes, and I think the same could apply to any person in our lives, and especially difficult people. We can't see the Buddha or the Christ and say, well, there's the baby Buddha that we can nurture and love and remember even in the midst of the conflict.
A newborn baby Buddha is what he said. Oh, isn't that, oh my goodness, such care.
Thank you both. Though let's take all that love and awareness and light that we have remembered as we move into our time of prayer requests, checking in with our hearts tonight and seeing what has arisen. Any areas of your life, people in your life that you'd like to see blessed, positive change, we can know and affirm, healing, peace, understanding. And so now's the time where we speak those names, situations, conditions into the sacred space that we're all holding, speaking them aloud, holding them in prayer together.
Foster and Pam.
We know that God already knows all the details. And so we trust in the movement of Spirit at work through our hearts, through the love that we are, connecting us heart to heart with these individuals, situations. And through the power of prayer, we send forth a blessing. We see healing unfolding, peace, understanding, love, harmony, joy, greater possibilities. And release it all to Spirit. And we are so truly grateful. Thank you, God. Amen.
Whether you're new to Unity or you're an old hand, I'm going to give you some opportunities to connect with other people here. Beginning with the 12 Powers of Creative Expression. It's a soul collage exercise that goes through the 12 spiritual powers, and you use some cards and you create kind of a little soul collage on each of the powers that's relative to you. and it's run by Reverend Jean Marie Eck and Mary Furr, who's a licensed Unity teacher. It's on Fridays, June 4th through July 9th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. on Zoom. And you can find out about the materials you need and how to register on our website. Coming up this Sunday, June 6th, from 1:30 to 3 p.m. on Zoom, Reverend Karen is going to have a workshop on Death is Not the End. It's a conversation about the afterlife. And Karen says you do not have to have made your transition to come. If you're mortal, you can just log in and be with us. You know, there are times in our life when we realize I'm not really afraid of failing. I'm really afraid of succeeding. People are going to want me to do it again and again. And Reverend Michael is addressing that topic this Sunday at 11 a.m. during the main service, and it's called Losing Our Fear of Flying. Chris Perez is going to do the Spanish service at 9:45 right here in the Pyramid this coming Sunday. Our Father's Day slideshow is coming up, and Jen Dickey is gathering photographs of you and your father or whoever served that father figure spirit for you. You can send a photo to jdickey@unityhouston.org, and she will put it in the slideshow. The deadline for submission is July 15th. That's on a Tuesday. And then next week, here in the Pyramid for the Wednesday Satsang, our ministerial intern, Sonia Perez, is going to speak on the topic of revolutionize your spiritual practice. And that will be here next Wednesday in the Pyramid.
Well, now I'll invite you to join me in speaking our metta practice prayer together. You see it on the screen. Together. By the power of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they know the sacred joy that arises in the space beyond suffering. May they rest in equanimity that knows no grasping or hatred. May they experience the equality of all beings. May my practice be of benefit to all.
Namaste, namaste. I bow to you. Namaste, namaste, namaste. Go shine your light into the world. Namaste, namaste. The light in me sees the light